The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light orbiting a distant star. Inside, 847 species gathered to discuss the business of the galaxy. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had fur or skin or crystalline shells. But all of them followed the rules that kept peace among the stars. Ambassador Chen Wei sat in the human section, her dark eyes watching the proceedings with quiet attention. She had represented Earth for 5 years now, and in that time she had learned one important lesson. The galaxy did not respect loudness or aggression. It respected patience and careful words. Today, however, patience would not be enough. High Magistrate Velthor rose from his seat, his 6 legs clicking against the metal floor. His insect body gleamed under the chamber lights, black chitin decorated with the medals of 40 conquered worlds. The Zinthian collective had ruled the outer regions for 3,000 years, and Velthor wore that power like a crown. "I bring charges against the human delegation," Velthor announced. His voice amplified through the chamber. "They have violated the territorial agreements. They have placed colonies in disputed zones. They have ignored our warnings and continued their expansion." Chen stood slowly. "We did not violate any agreements. Those colonies are rescue missions. Years ago, Earth sent colony ships into deep space before we joined the Council. Some of those ships were damaged. Some drifted off course. We are simply bringing our people home." Velthor's mandibles clicked, and what Chen had learned was their version of laughter. Rescue missions that include mining operations, research stations, military outposts. "We are not fools, Ambassador. Those facilities support the rescue operations," Chen explained, keeping her voice steady. "The colonies are temporary. We have documented every ship we have recovered, every person we have saved. All the records are available for review." "We do not care about your records," Velthor said. "We care about your presence in our territory. The Outer Rim belongs to the Zinthian collective. You will remove your people immediately." Chen looked around the chamber. Some species watched with interest. Others looked bored, as if this was just another minor dispute between lesser powers. The council speaker, an ancient being named Maratok, whose slug-like body filled a tank of green liquid, gestured for calm. "Perhaps a compromise can be reached," Maratok suggested, his voice bubbling through translators. "The humans could be given time to relocate their operations." "Time?" Velthor turned to face the speaker. "We have given them time. We have sent warnings for 6 months. They ignore us because they think we are weak. They think because we follow council procedure that we will not act." Chen felt her jaw tighten. She had hoped to avoid this moment. "High Magistrate, we do not think you are weak. We respect the Zinthian collective's history and power, but we cannot abandon our people without proper preparation. I ask for 30 days to evacuate all civilians from the disputed colonies." 30 days? Velthor's voice rose. "You ask for a month to continue your illegal occupation? No, you have 48 hours. After that, we will take military action." The chamber fell silent. Military action. The words hung in the air like a threat. Chen knew what came next. She had hoped it would not come to this, but the Zinthians had made their choice. "High Magistrate," Chen said carefully, "I urge you to reconsider. We do not want conflict, but we will not abandon our civilians to make a political point." Velthor moved closer to the human section. His large compound eyes studied Chen with what looked like contempt. "You speak of not wanting conflict, but you threaten us? Look at yourselves. You have no natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armored skin. Your bodies are soft and weak. You need machines to survive in most environments. You have been part of this council for only 50 years. 50 years. We have conquered species that existed for millennia." Other species in the chamber made sounds of agreement. Chen could feel their judgment. Humans were newcomers. Humans were small and soft and fragile. Humans had no great military victories to their name. "We are aware of our limitations," Chen said quietly, "but we are also aware of our strengths." "Strengths?" Velthor made that clicking sound again. "What strengths? Your diplomatic skills? Your trade agreements? These things mean nothing when facing real power. You have been peaceful because you are weak. You have no choice but to be peaceful." Chen touched her communication device, sending a single coded message. Far away on a military station orbiting Mars, Commander Sarah Mitchell would receive that message and know what it meant. "Protocol Omega. Full military authorization." "High Magistrate," Chen said, her voice still calm but with an edge of steel beneath it. "I will say this one more time. We have lived through worse than you can imagine. I strongly suggest you reconsider your position. Velthor's mandibles spread wide in what Chen knew was their version of a smile. A threat from a species that has never fought a real war? This is amusing. Very well, Ambassador. I will make this official. He turned to face Council Speaker Maratak and the assembled delegates. The Zinthian Collective hereby declares a state of punitive military action against the human colonies in the Outer Rim. Any human vessels or installations in disputed territories after 48 hours will be destroyed. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. This is a mistake, Chen said, but her voice was drowned out by the sudden noise in the chamber. Species were talking among themselves. Some seemed concerned. Most seemed to view this as a minor issue that would be resolved quickly. The Zinthians were powerful. The humans were not. It would be a short conflict. Speaker Maratak called for order. The Council recognizes the declaration of military action. As per our laws, the Council will remain neutral in this dispute unless it threatens galactic stability. Are there any formal objections? Silence. No species wanted to antagonize the Zinthian Collective over a border dispute with the humans. Chen gathered her documents and prepared to leave. As she walked toward the exit, an old ambassador from a species called the Thal approached her. The Thal were gray-skinned beings with large eyes, and this particular ambassador was very old. Chen had helped his species negotiate a trade dispute 2 years ago. Ambassador Chen, the Thal whispered, his voice scratchy with age. Please tell your people to be careful. They have no idea what they have done. Chen looked at him with surprise. You think we can win? The old Thal shook his head slowly. I think the Zinthians have made a terrible mistake. I have studied your species out of curiosity. I have read your history, and I am very glad my people are not your enemies. Chen wanted to ask what he meant, but he shuffled away before she could speak. She left the chamber and returned to her ship, her mind racing. 48 hours. Not much time. She opened a secure channel to Earth. Commander Mitchell, what is our status? Sarah Mitchell's face appeared on the screen. The commander was in her 50s with gray streaks in her dark hair and the tired eyes of someone who had seen too much. All forces are moving into position. Admiral Kowalski is taking personal command. The colonies are beginning evacuation procedures, but 2 million civilians can't be moved in 48 hours. I know, Chen said. The Zinthians are counting on that. They want to force us to choose between surrender and casualties. What they don't know, Mitchell said with a thin smile, is that we prepared for this possibility the day we joined the Council. Chen nodded slowly. The Zinthians researched our diplomacy, our culture, our trade. They read about our peaceful expansion and our cooperation with other species. But they didn't research our history, Mitchell finished. No, Chen agreed. They didn't. And now they're about to learn what happens when you threaten humanity. The screen went dark. Chen sat alone in her quarters thinking about what came next. She did not want this war. No sane person wanted war. But the Zinthians had made their choice, and now humanity would have to make theirs. Somewhere in the dark between the stars, human warships were moving into position. Ships that had been built in secret, prepared for this exact moment. Earth had learned long ago that hoping for peace meant preparing for war. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson too. 12 hours after the declaration, the Zinthian war fleet appeared in the space above New Haven Colony. 200 ships filled the darkness, their weapons powered and ready. Fleet Commander Zixtal watched from his flagship as the small human colony grew larger on his screens. Scan for defenses, he ordered. His tactical officer worked at her station. 12 orbital platforms, minimal weapons, some civilian ships fleeing the system, no military vessels detected. Zixtal felt satisfaction ripple through his body. The humans were running, as they should. He activated the communication system and broadcast to the colony below. Human colony of New Haven, this is Fleet Commander Zixtal of the Zinthian Collective. You are in violation of territorial law. You have 1 hour to surrender all facilities and evacuate your personnel. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your colony. On the surface, Governor Helena Ortiz listened to the message from her command center. Around her, staff worked frantically to coordinate the evacuation. 2 million people. 48 hours. It was impossible. How many have we evacuated? She asked. 80,000, her aide replied. The transport ships can't move fast enough. We need more time. Helena looked at the screens showing the Zinthian fleet above. 200 warships. New Haven had 12 defense platforms that were designed to stop pirates and asteroids, not a full military fleet. Send a message to Admiral Kowalski, Helena said. Tell him we need help. Message already sent, Governor. No response yet. Helena closed her eyes. Her colony was about to be destroyed, and there was nothing she could do about it. Then everything changed. On the Zinthian flagship, alarms began screaming. Zixtal spun to face his tactical officer. Report. Multiple contacts. Ships appearing throughout the system. 41 vessels, no. 43. Still counting. What? Where did they come from? Unknown, Commander. They just appeared. No warning, no energy signatures before appearance. Zixtal stared at his screens. Human ships. Dozens of them. They had appeared from nowhere using some kind of technology he did not recognize. The ships were smaller than his vessels, sleeker and faster looking. The lead human ship opened a channel. A man in a dark blue uniform appeared on the screen. He looked old with white hair and a scarred face, but his eyes were sharp and cold. This is Admiral James Kowalski of the United Earth Space Service. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and withdraw from this system. Zixtal clicked his mandibles in anger. You dare threaten me? You are outnumbered 5-1. The human admiral did not smile. 29 seconds. This is insane. Your ships are tiny. We will crush you. 15 seconds. Zixtal cut the communication. All ships, battle formation. Prepare to fire! The Zinthian fleet moved into attack position, their plasma weapons charging. They had fought 100 battles across 1,000 years. They knew how space combat worked. You positioned your fleet, fired your long-range weapons, and destroyed the enemy before they could get close. The Zinthian fleet fired. Bright streams of plasma shot across space toward the human ships. Direct hits. Multiple human vessels took the blasts and their shields flared with energy. But the human ships did not stop. They did not retreat. They kept coming. Impossible, Zixtal shouted. Fire again. More plasma bolts, more hits. Some human ships showed damage, their armor burning away. But still they came, accelerating to speeds that made Zixtal's tactical officer gasp in shock. They're not slowing down. They're closing to close range. Close range? That is suicide. Continue firing. The human ships reached what galactic navies considered close range, about 50,000 kilometers. Then they kept coming. 20,000 kilometers. 10,000. 5,000. At that distance, the human ships opened fire. Zixtal watched in horror as metal projectiles tore through his formation. Not energy weapons. Not plasma or lasers. Just chunks of metal moving at incredible speeds. They punched through shields designed to stop energy blasts and smashed into ship hulls like hammers. Evasive action, Zixtal ordered, but it was too late. The human ships moved through his fleet like sharks through fish. They were fast, impossibly fast, and they seemed to know exactly where to hit. Zinthian ships exploded. Others lost power and drifted. Some tried to retreat, but the human ships followed them, relentless. Zixtal tried to understand what was happening. How were these small ships defeating his fleet? Then he saw it on his tactical display. The human ships were working together in perfect coordination. Every shot, every movement, every attack was timed with precision. They fought like a single organism with 43 bodies. Target their flagship, Zixtal ordered. All remaining ships focus fire on the lead human vessel. 20 Zinthian ships turned their weapons on Admiral Kowalski's ship. Plasma fire from 20 vessels struck the human flagship at once. The ship's shields collapsed. Its armor melted. Fires erupted across its hull. But the ship kept fighting. Why won't they die? Zixtal whispered. On the human flagship, Admiral Kowalski held onto his command chair as the ship shook from impact after impact. Damage report. Shields gone. Hull breaches on deck 7 through 12. Fires in engineering. Casualties mounting. Can we still fight? The weapons officer looked up, his face covered in blood from a cut on his forehead. Yes, sir. Weapons are operational. Then keep firing. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 187 Zinthian ships were destroyed or disabled. 13 more had been captured by boarding parties. The rest had fled. The human fleet had lost 3 ships destroyed and 8 damaged. 847 human personnel were dead. Over 3,000 were wounded. Admiral Kowalski stood on his damaged bridge and looked at the casualty reports. Every number was a person. Every person had family, friends, dreams. He had sent them into battle and some of them would never go home. "Admiral," his communication officer said quietly, "Governor Ortiz is asking for a status report." Kowalski touched his communication device. "Governor, this is Kowalski. New Haven is secure. Begin evacuation procedures at a safe pace. You have all the time you need now." Helena's voice came through, thick with emotion. "Thank you, Admiral. But what did this cost us?" "Less than it would have cost if we hadn't fought," Kowalski said. He closed the channel and looked at the wreckage floating in space around him. Zinthian ships broken and burning. Human ships scarred and damaged. This was what war looked like. This was what the galaxy had forgotten. Far away on Earth, in a secure military facility, Dr. Yuki Tanaka watched the battle reports come in. She was a small woman with gray hair and glasses, a historian and xenopsychologist who had spent her career studying how different species fought wars. She pulled up files on her computer. Files that showed humanity's own history, the world wars, the nuclear exchanges, the resource conflicts that almost destroyed civilization, hundreds of years of humanity fighting itself, learning the hardest lessons possible. "They think this is war," she said to the empty room. "They have no idea what war actually is." Her assistant, a young lieutenant, looked confused. "We just destroyed most of their fleet." "How is this not war?" Dr. Tanaka pulled up more files. Footage of human Marines training. Images of weapon systems kept in storage. Plans for military operations that had never been used. This was a border skirmish. We used 43 ships. We have hundreds more. We used kinetic weapons and conventional tactics. We have weapons we have never deployed. Why not use everything we have? Because, Dr. Tanaka said, we remember what happens when you use everything you have. We remember what happens when war stops being about winning and starts being about extinction. She closed the files and looked at the star maps on her wall. The Zinthians think we won because we had better technology. They are wrong. We won because we understand war better than they do. We have fought ourselves for thousands of years. We have nearly destroyed our own world multiple times. We learned how to fight not from conquering others, but from almost destroying ourselves. And now? Now the Zinthians will escalate. They will commit more forces. They think this is about territory and pride. Dr. Tanaka shook her head sadly. They still do not understand. This is not about territory. This is about survival, and humans are very, very good at surviving. In the Zinthian capital, High Magistrate Velthor received the news of the defeat. He read the reports 3 times, unable to believe what he was seeing. 187 ships lost. The humans had fewer casualties than his fleet had ships remaining. This is impossible, he said to his council. The humans are weak. Everyone knows this. They have no natural weapons. They are slow and fragile. Apparently, one of his advisors said carefully. We were mistaken. Velthor's rage exploded. He smashed his appendages against the table. No, we cannot be mistaken. We have conquered 40 worlds. We have fought for 3,000 years. We will not be defeated by these soft-skinned newcomers. He activated his communication system and sent orders throughout the Zinthian collective. Mobilize the full military. Every ship, every soldier. We will crush the humans completely. We will burn their colonies and destroy their homeworld. They will learn what it means to defy the Zinthian collective. 4,000 ships began to move, the largest military force assembled in 500 years. The galaxy watched and whispered. And on Earth, Admiral Kowalski looked at the reports of the Zinth 3 weeks into the war. The galaxy watched in disbelief as everything they knew about warfare changed. The Zinthian collective had assembled 4,000 ships, the largest military force seen in 5 centuries. 7 allied species had contributed vessels and support. Betting markets throughout the galaxy heavily favored the Zinthians. Everyone knew how this would end. The humans would be crushed. Everyone was wrong. On the bridge of a stealth reconnaissance ship deep in Zinthian space, Captain Marcus Rivera studied his screens with quiet satisfaction. His ship, the UESS Shadow, was invisible to Zinthian sensors. It had been stationed here for 2 weeks, watching and recording everything. Another supply convoy heading to the front lines, his sensor officer reported. 40 cargo ships with military escorts. Mark their route, Rivera ordered. Send the data to Fleet Command. The information traveled through encrypted quantum channels back to human command. Within hours, that convoy would be intercepted by a small strike force. The supplies would never reach the Zinthian fleet. The escorts would be destroyed or captured. This was happening throughout Zinthian space. Human ships appeared without warning, struck at supply lines and logistics, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The Zinthians were learning a painful lesson. You could have the biggest fleet in the galaxy, but if that fleet had no fuel, no ammunition, and no food, it was useless. The Galactic Council held emergency sessions every day now. Species representatives argued about whether to intervene. Most were too afraid of either side to act. Ambassador Chen attended every session, watching and listening. The other ambassadors looked at her differently now. Before, they had seen humans as weak newcomers. Now they saw something that made them nervous. The Zinthian ambassador requests the floor, Council Speaker Maritok announced. A new Zinthian representative stood. Velthor himself had not appeared at the council since the war began. This ambassador was younger, with brighter chitin and less confident movements. The human attacks on civilian infrastructure must stop, the ambassador declared. They are violating every law of civilized warfare. They attack our supply ships. They raid our orbital stations. They use deception and trickery instead of honorable combat. Chen rose slowly. We have attacked only military targets. Every supply convoy we have intercepted was carrying weapons or ammunition. Every station we have raided was a military installation. We have gone out of our way to avoid civilian casualties. You use illegal tactics. Stealth ships! Computer viruses. You are cowards who will not face us in open battle. Chen's expression did not change. You wanted war. We are giving you war. Just because we do not fight the way you expect does not make our tactics illegal. We follow our own laws of war, which are actually more restrictive than galactic standards. The Zinthian ambassador made angry clicking sounds. Then face us! High Magistrate Velthor is assembling 3,000 ships for a direct assault on your Sol system. If you are so confident, meet us there in open battle. We will meet you, Chen said quietly. But you will not like what happens. On Earth, Admiral Kowalski stood in the Situation Room watching the approaching Zinthian fleet. 3,000 ships moving toward humanity's home system. It was supposed to be an overwhelming force that would break human resistance. All defense platforms are active, his tactical officer reported. The asteroid belt has been cleared of civilians. Drone ships are in position. Mars defense grid is online. Lunar installations are ready. And our fleet? Kowalski asked. 200 ships deployed in system. Another 300 in reserve. Kowalski nodded. The numbers looked bad for humanity. 3,000 against 200. But numbers were not everything. For 50 years since joining the Galactic Council, humanity had prepared for this moment. Not because they wanted war, but because they had learned long ago that peace required the ability to defend yourself. The Sol system had been turned into the most fortified location in the galaxy, and the Zinthians were about to learn why. The Zinthian fleet entered the Sol system in a massive formation. High Magistrate Velthor commanded from his flagship at the center of the fleet. He looked at the display showing the small human defense force and felt triumph. They cannot even muster enough ships to face us, he said to his staff. This will be over quickly. The human ships began retreating, falling back toward Earth's orbit. Velthor ordered his fleet forward, chasing them. This was what galactic warfare looked like. The larger force pushed the smaller force back until the smaller force was destroyed. The Zinthian fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, passing Mars, entering the asteroid belt. Still, the human ships retreated. Then the trap closed. Thousands of objects that the Zinthians had thought were asteroids suddenly powered up. They were not asteroids. They were weapons platforms, hidden and waiting. Mines that had been drifting in the belt for decades activated. Unmanned drone ships appeared from behind planets and moons. The entire Sol system became a killing field. Velthor watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. Weapons fired from every direction. His ships tried to return fire, but the targets were too many, too scattered. Every piece of debris, every small moon, every satellite was part of an integrated defense network. Fall back, he ordered. Retreat to the outer system. But retreating was just as dangerous as advancing. The human defenses had been designed to catch any fleet that entered the system. There was no safe direction to run. Human ships, no longer retreating, turned and attacked. They coordinated with the defense platforms and drones with perfect precision. It was like fighting a single enemy with 10,000 arms. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 2,400 Zinthian ships were destroyed or captured. The rest fled in disorder. Human casualties were 47 ships destroyed and 12,000 personnel dead. High Magistrate Velthor's flagship was boarded by human marines in powered armor. He tried to fight, but his guards were overwhelmed in minutes. The humans moved through his ship like they had trained for this exact scenario. Because they had. Velthor found himself in chains looking at a human marine commander. The human was tall and muscular, her armor scarred from battle. She removed her helmet and studied him with dark eyes. "High Magistrate Velthor," she said in perfect Zinthian language, "you are now a prisoner of war. You will be treated according to the laws and customs of war as defined by the Geneva Conventions and the Outer Space Treaty." "You should kill me," Velthor said bitterly. "That is what we would do." The Marine commander looked at him with something that might have been pity. "We are not you." Velthor was transported to a prison ship. He expected torture or execution. Instead, he was given a cell with a bed, access to news, and regular meals. His injuries from the battle were treated by human doctors. It made no sense. He had declared war on them. He had tried to destroy their worlds. Why were they treating him with this strange mercy? Through his cell window, he could see other Zinthian prisoners being processed. They were all being treated the same way. Given medical care, proper food, shelters that matched their environmental needs. A human doctor came to check on him. She was an older woman with gray hair and a kind face. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Why do you care?" Velthor asked. "I am your enemy." "You are a wounded prisoner," the doctor said. "That makes you my patient, not my enemy." She left him with medicine for his pain. Velthor took the medicine and stared at the walls of his cell. For the first time, he began to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. Not because the humans were stronger than he had thought, but because they were different in a way he had not imagined. On Earth, the Galactic Council called an emergency session. Ambassador Chen attended via hologram, standing in the ruins of what had been the largest invasion fleet in centuries. "The Zinthian collective has been defeated," she announced. "We are prepared to discuss terms of surrender." Multiple species tried to speak at once. Chen waited for silence. "However," she continued, "we have received intelligence that 3 other species are mobilizing fleets. The Kryn Empire, the Thalax Hierarchy, and the Viridian Dominion appear to be forming a coalition. They claim that humanity's military power is a threat to galactic stability." An ambassador from the Kryn Empire stood. He was a reptilian being with golden scales. "Your species has proven to be dangerous. You have destroyed 2 Zinthian fleets with minimal losses. You possess weapons and tactics we have never seen. How can the galaxy feel safe with such power in the hands of a single species?" Chen looked at him for a long moment. "You are afraid of us." "We are concerned." "You are afraid," Chen repeated. "You see what we did to the Zinthians, and you wonder if we might do the same to you. So you want us to disarm, to limit our military, to make ourselves weak so you can feel safe." The Kryn ambassador started to respond, but Chen cut him off. "Let me be very clear. We did not start this war. We tried to avoid it. We offered compromise and negotiation. The Zinthians chose violence. They learned the consequences. If your coalition chooses the same path, you will learn the same lesson." "Are you threatening the council?" another ambassador demanded. "No," Chen said. "I am stating a fact. Humanity will not disarm while threats remain. We will not make ourselves vulnerable." 6 weeks after the war began, human fleets surrounded Zinth Prime, the homeworld of the Zinthian collective. 14 billion people lived on that world. Cities stretched across every continent. Orbital stations filled the space above. Admiral Kowalski stood on his flagship and looked at the planet below. One order from him could destroy it all. His ships carried enough firepower to turn the surface into molten glass. Many galactic species would do exactly that. Overwhelming force. Total destruction. Make an example. But humanity remembered what happened when you chose total destruction. "Open a channel to the surface," Kowalski ordered. The new leader of the Zinthian collective appeared on screen. Magistrate Kolvan had taken power after Velthor's capture. He looked younger than Velthor, but his eyes held the same pride and anger. "You have come to destroy us," Kolvan said. "Go ahead. Show the galaxy what monsters you truly are." "We have not come to destroy you," Kowalski replied. "We have come to end this war. Surrender your military forces and your people will not be harmed." Kolvan's mandibles clicked in disbelief. You expect me to believe that? You have the power to exterminate us. Why would you show mercy? Because mercy is not weakness, Kowalski said. Surrender, and you will see. Never. If you want this world, you will have to take it. And it will cost you more than you can afford. The channel closed. Kowalski looked at his staff. Begin orbital insertion. Send in the Marines. What happened next shocked the galaxy. Instead of bombing the planet from orbit, humans landed troops, 500,000 Marines and soldiers deployed to the surface in waves of landing craft. They brought tanks, aircraft, artillery, and supplies for a long campaign. The Galactic Council watched through satellite feeds. Most species had not conducted ground warfare in thousands of years. Space combat was cleaner, more efficient. But humans were doing something different. Captain Amira Hassan led her marine company through the streets of a Zinthian city. Her orders were clear: secure military installations, minimize civilian casualties, follow the rules of engagement. Her company reached a Zinthian military base. Defenders fired on them from fortified positions. Hassan's Marines took cover and returned fire with precision. They used drones to identify enemy positions. They used smoke and electronic warfare to confuse the defenders. We have civilians in the building next to the base, her intelligence officer reported. 43 life signs. Hassan adjusted her plan. Instead of using artillery to destroy the base, she sent teams to flank it from multiple directions. It took longer. 3 of her Marines were wounded. But the base was captured with minimal damage to surrounding buildings. The Zinthian defenders were taken prisoner. They were searched for weapons, given medical treatment for their wounds, and transported to secure locations. They were not tortured. They were not executed. They were processed according to rules that seemed bizarre to them. One Zinthian soldier, a young female named Zixra, found herself in a human medical tent. A human doctor was treating her injured leg while a guard watched nearby. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "I tried to kill you." The doctor, a man with dark skin and tired eyes, did not look up from his work. "You are wounded. That is all I need to know. But I am your enemy. You were a soldier following orders," the doctor said. "Now you are a patient. The war is over for you." Zixra could not understand this. In Zinthian culture, defeated enemies were servants at best, dead at worst. Mercy was shown only to those who could be useful later. But this doctor was helping her simply because she was hurt. The ground campaign continued for 11 days. Human forces moved through cities with careful precision. They announced their attacks in advance so civilians could evacuate. They set up field hospitals that treated both human and Zinthian wounded. They distributed food and medical supplies to civilian populations cut off from support. The Zinthian military fought hard, but they were not prepared for human ground combat tactics. Humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of land warfare. Every formation, every technique, every strategy had been tested in hundreds of real battles on Earth. Dr. Yuki Tanaka traveled with the human forces, studying how the Zinthians reacted to human warfare. She interviewed prisoners, talked to civilians, and compiled reports. "They don't understand us," she told Admiral Kowalski during a briefing. "They think we are being kind because we are weak. They don't realize we are being kind because we are strong enough to afford kindness." "Will they ever understand?" Kowalski asked. "Some will, others will not. But the galaxy is watching. That matters more." On the 11th day, Magistrate Kolvan looked at the tactical maps and knew the war was lost. Human forces controlled all major military installations. Zinthian defenders were surrounded with no hope of reinforcement. The humans could take the capital city whenever they chose. He activated his communication system. "This is Magistrate Kolvan. I am prepared to discuss surrender." The surrender ceremony took place in the capital city. Kolvan signed documents ending all Zinthian military operations. In exchange, Kowalski guaranteed the safety of all Zinthian civilians and the fair treatment of all prisoners. Human casualties from the invasion: 14,000 dead, 31,000 wounded. Zinthian military casualties, 400,000 dead, 2.3 million captured. Zinthian civilian casualties, 12,000, mostly killed when Zinthian forces used civilian buildings as military positions. The numbers were reported throughout the galaxy. Many species could not believe them. The humans had invaded a heavily defended homeworld and won with such low casualties. But more shocking was what came next. Human engineers began repairing damaged infrastructure in the cities they had captured. Human doctors set up clinics for Zinthian civilians. Human soldiers distributed food and supplies. Within days of the surrender, human forces were helping restore normal life to the planet. In his cell on the prison ship, Velthor watched news broadcasts of his homeworld. He saw human soldiers helping Zinthian children. He saw human engineers fixing power plants. He saw human doctors treating Zinthian elderly. A human officer came to his cell. It was Dr. Tanaka. She sat down across from him and pulled out a tablet. "I would like to ask you some questions," she said. "You wish to interrogate me?" "I wish to understand you. There is a difference." Velthor studied this small, gray-haired human. "Why do you care about understanding?" "Because," Dr. Tanaka said, "I am trying to prevent future wars. To do that, I need to understand why this war happened. What were you thinking when you declared war on us?" Velthor was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he began to talk. He explained how the Zinthians viewed the galaxy, how they believed in strength and power, how they saw diplomacy as weakness, how they had conquered 40 worlds and made their species great through military might. "We saw you humans," he said, "and we saw weakness, soft bodies, no natural weapons, always negotiating, always compromising. We thought you were prey pretending to be predators." "And now?" Dr. Tanaka asked. "Now I understand we saw only what we expected to see. We did not see your history. We did not see what made you strong." He gestured at the tablet showing his homeworld. "You could have destroyed us completely. Instead, you show mercy. You defeat us and then help us. Why?" Dr. Tanaka pulled up files on her tablet, images of Earth's history. War after war, weapons of terrible destruction, cities burned, millions dead. "Because we learned," she said quietly. "We learned what happens when you choose total destruction. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times. We created weapons that could end all life on our planet, and we came very, very close to using them." She showed him images of destroyed cities, of radiation wastelands, of mass graves. "We survived those times," she continued, "and we promised ourselves that we would never repeat them. We wrote laws about how to conduct war, how to treat prisoners, how to protect civilians. We limited ourselves, not because we were weak, but because we were strong enough to know we needed limits." Velthor looked at the images. "You show me this to make me feel guilty?" "No, Dr. Tanaka said. "I show you this so you understand. Humans are dangerous not because we lack mercy, but because we understand war better than any species in this galaxy. We have fought ourselves for thousands of years. We have made every mistake possible. We have learned from all of them." She closed the tablet and looked directly at Velthor. "You declared war on the deadliest species in the galaxy, not because we have the best weapons, though we do, not because we have the best tactics, though we do, but because we understand war at a level most species cannot comprehend. We know what it costs, and that knowledge makes us far more dangerous than simple violence ever could." Velthor felt something he had never felt before, not fear, but understanding. "I have doomed my people." "No," Dr. Tanaka said. "You have given them a chance to learn what we learned. That strength without wisdom is just violence. That power without restraint is just destruction. That being the deadliest species means knowing when not to kill." She stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. "Your people will survive this. We will help them rebuild. We will help them join the galaxy as equals. Because that is what we do. We fight when we must, but we always choose peace when we can." 3 months after the surrender, Representatives from across the galaxy gathered on a neutral station to negotiate the final peace treaty. The war was over, but its consequences were still being decided. Ambassador Chen Wei sat at the negotiation table across from the new Zinthian representatives. Next to her was Admiral Kowalski, his uniform decorated with medals he had earned in the war. Across the table, the Zinthians looked nervous and defeated, but that was not the only delegation present. 3 other species had sent representatives: the Kryn Empire, the Thalax Hierarchy, and the Viridian Dominion. They had formed a coalition, and they had demands. The Kryn ambassador, his golden scales gleaming under the station lights, spoke first. Before we discuss peace with the Zinthians, we must address the larger issue. Humanity has proven itself to be a military power unlike any the galaxy has seen. Your weapons, your tactics, your organization are all superior to anything we knew existed. You should be grateful, Chen said quietly. If we were the conquerors you feared, this conversation would not be happening. That is precisely our concern, a Thalax representative said. She was a tall, crystalline being whose voice chimed like bells. You have the power to conquer. What prevents you from doing so? Our choice, Chen replied. The same thing that prevented us from destroying the Zinthian homeworld. The same thing that prevents us from using our most destructive weapons. We choose not to. But what if you change your minds? The Viridian ambassador asked. He was a flowing, liquid-like being contained in an environmental suit. What if one day your leaders decide that peace is no longer beneficial? The entire galaxy would be helpless. Admiral Kowalski leaned forward. You want us to limit our military, to submit to inspections and restrictions, to make ourselves weak so you can feel safe. We want balance, the Kryn ambassador said. We want assurance that humanity will not become a threat. Chen stood slowly. Before we continue this discussion, I want to show you something. She activated a holographic display. Data filled the air above the table. Ship specifications, weapon designs, military installations, technology that the galaxy had never seen. This is what we used against the Zinthians, Chen said, highlighting a portion of the data. Approximately 30% of our total military capability. These are the ships you saw. These are the weapons we deployed. These are the tactics we used. She expanded the display. More data appeared. Much more. This is our full military capability. Ships we never deployed. Weapons we never used. Technologies we have developed but kept in reserve. The representatives stared at the data in shock. The amount of military power humanity possessed was staggering. They had won the war using only a fraction of their strength. You see these weapons? Chen pointed at a series of designs that made the alien representatives recoil. Planet crackers. Devices that can split a world apart from the inside. We built them 50 years ago. We have never used them. We never will unless we face extinction. She showed more designs. Stellar igniters. Weapons that can cause a star to go supernova. We have the ability to destroy entire solar systems. We choose not to. You show us this to threaten us? The Thalax representative asked, her voice wavering. No, Chen said. I show you this to make you understand. We have had these weapons for decades. We could have used them at any time. We could have conquered the galaxy. We chose diplomacy instead. Not because we were weak, but because we are strong enough to choose peace. She closed the display and looked at each representative in turn. You are afraid of what we might do. You should be asking yourselves why we haven't done it already. We have had the power to dominate the galaxy since before we joined the Council. We chose a different path. Admiral Kowalski spoke quietly. My people have a saying. Those who can but don't are the truly powerful. We can destroy you all. We choose not to. That is real strength. The room was silent for a long moment. Then an unexpected voice spoke. They speak truth. Everyone turned. High Magistrate Velthor had entered the chamber. He was still technically a prisoner, but he had been allowed to attend the negotiations. He walked slowly to the table and looked at the coalition representatives. I declared war on humanity because I thought them weak. Velthor said, I was a fool. They are not weak. They are the most dangerous species any of us will ever encounter. But not for the reasons you fear. He gestured at the human representatives. They destroyed 2 of my fleets. They invaded my homeworld. They captured millions of my people. And then they helped us rebuild. They treated our wounded. They fed our civilians. They showed mercy to an enemy who had shown them none. Velthor's voice grew stronger. Do you know what is truly terrifying about humans? Not their weapons or their tactics. It is their restraint. They have the power to destroy and they choose not to use it. They win wars and then they help their enemies recover. They are deadly because they understand death better than any of us. The Kryn ambassador looked uncomfortable. Even so, such power concentrated in one species is dangerous. More dangerous than 3 species forming a military coalition? Chen asked sharply. Yes, we know about your fleet mobilization. We know you have assembled 8,000 ships. We know you plan to demand our submission under threat of force. The coalition representatives looked shocked. The Kryn ambassador started to speak, but Chen cut him off. Did you really think we would not notice? We have surveillance capabilities you cannot imagine. We have been watching you since the day you started planning this coalition. She pulled up more data. This is your fleet composition. These are your planned attack vectors. These are the supply routes you established. We know everything. Then, why have you not attacked us? The Viridian ambassador asked. Because, Chen said, we hoped you would be intelligent enough to reconsider. Dr. Tanaka entered the chamber carrying a datapad. She nodded to Chen and projected a new set of images. Historical footage from Earth, wars, destruction, cities in ruins. This is what humanity looked like 500 years ago, Dr. Tanaka explained. We fought ourselves. We nearly destroyed our own civilization multiple times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, environmental collapse. We came within hours of complete extinction. She showed images of gradual recovery. We survived, and we learned. We created laws about how to conduct war. We established rules for treating prisoners and protecting civilians. We limited ourselves because we understood that unlimited warfare leads only to extinction. More images appeared. Humans helping other species. Humans negotiating treaties. Humans solving conflicts through diplomacy. When we joined the Galactic Council, Dr. Tanaka continued, we brought this knowledge with us. We studied how you conduct warfare. We saw that most species have ritualized combat. You fight for resources or territory, but you rarely fight for survival. You have not experienced what we experienced. She looked at each representative. The Zinthians learned this lesson. Now you have a choice. Learn from their example or repeat their mistake. The coalition representatives conferred among themselves in hushed tones. Finally, the Kryn ambassador spoke. What do you propose? A mutual defense pact, Chen said. Not submission, but cooperation. We share our military doctrine, our laws of war, our understanding of how to limit conflict. In exchange, you accept that humanity will remain armed and ready, but committed to peace. And if we refuse? The Thalax representative asked. Chen's expression was cold. Then you will learn the same lesson the Zinthians learned. But I promise you we would rather be your allies than your conquerors. The choice is yours. The negotiations continued for 3 more days. In the end, a treaty was signed. The Treaty of Humanity, they called it. It established new rules for galactic warfare based on human principles. Protection of civilians. Fair treatment of prisoners. Distinction between military and civilian targets. War crimes, tribunals for those who violated the rules. The Zinthian collective became a protectorate state, demilitarized but autonomous. Humanity agreed to help them rebuild their civilization and economy. Velthor, after serving a sentence for war crimes, was released and became an advocate for peace. The coalition was dissolved. Instead, a new Galactic Security Council was formed with human participation. Human military forces became peacekeepers, helping to resolve conflicts throughout the galaxy. 5 years later, Ambassador Chen stood in the same council chamber where the war had begun. A new species was applying to join the council. They called themselves the Rokar, and they were proud warriors with a strong military tradition. Chen met with their representative privately before the official introduction. The Rokar was large and muscular, with thick armor plating and sharp claws. He looked at Chen with barely concealed contempt. "I have heard stories about your species," he said, "how you defeated the Zinthians. But I see only a small, weak creature before me. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons." Chen smiled slightly. The Zinthians thought the same thing. The Zinthians were weak. My people are not. We have conquered 20 systems. We are true warriors. "Tell me," Chen said quietly, "how many wars have you fought against your own kind?" The Rokar looked confused. "We do not fight ourselves. We fight others." "Exactly," Chen said. "You have never faced an enemy that understands you completely, an enemy that knows all your tactics, B.